is this? What is this? Lunce's list. What is this? Oh. What is this? Lunce's list. What is this? Lunce's list. Oh. Lunce's list of 5. Lunce's list of 5. Come on now. Lunce's list of 5. Lunce's list of 5.
All right. That was beautiful. Lunce's list today is the 5 90s movies that made the biggest impact on John Lunsford. Going back to the 1990s, which was a simpler time in our country. John, how did you approach this list today?
All right, so everybody always asks me when it comes to Lunce's list how I approach it, and each one is different. With this one, it was, look, we, not Tyler, but me, you, Rocky grew up in the 90s, and, that was kind of our first introduction into movies, and that was kind of our time to figure out what we liked, what we didn't like, and, how to approach media as a whole, TV shows, music, everything. And so, I thought, okay, before I look up movies and say, oh, I forgot that one, let me just name movies right off the top of my head I know are not only, movies that are impactful in my life, but movies that I know were, uniquely 90s. And I came up with probably 6 or 7 that I knew were 90s. And then I was like, okay, let me go. I'm sure I missed some. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that was 99, not 2000. Oh, that was 90, not 89. And I slowly but surely came up with a list of 23 movies. And I'm like, okay, Tim told me to do 20 or to do 5, not 23.
I did not tell you to do 23 for sure.
Literally been 5 our entire career. We've been doing this. But so I thought, okay, what are the 5? And, really it was kind of easy to choose 5 of those first group that I thought of right off the top of my head that I know they're A, uniquely 90s, and B, they're the first movies that came to mind. Obviously, those are the most impactful to me, so that's why I chose them. So, that's how I came up with the 5 movies here on Lunce's list.
All right, let's go ahead and start off with number 5 on Lunce's list. As Rocky, I know the 90s were very influential for you.
There were, and I'm super curious to see what these are impactful to Mr. Lunsford over here, and to see how I compare to, oh God.
What is this one? I can't see anything. Titanic. Okay.
Can I make an admission?
You never seen Titanic?
Don't say that.
I've never seen Titanic.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's only one of the biggest and greatest movies, not just of the 90s, but of all time.
I know the biggest moneymaker. I get it, but, it's just,
Our former colleague who was in the chat with us on Monday, John Saber, he also has never seen Titanic. And I don't know if it's just like a producer thing. Or...
No, it's not. Here's the thing. Now it's to the point. It's like when Godfather. You agree that's a great movie?
Yeah. No, well, I think it's overrated, but
1 and 2, whatever.
It's considered a great movie, yeah.
There is a time where you missed the boat, Titanic, sadly.
Wow.
Where that was a bad pun.
That was
really
bad.
You kind of want to miss the boat for this one.
I guess technically, yeah.
Yeah. So if I told you, Tim, let's say you've never seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest movies in the 80s ever, and you watch it tonight, do you think it's going to have the same impact on you as it did for the most people that saw it in 1986?
No, but I would counter-argue with, I think Titanic is timeless because of the time period in which it's set in.
And I think every movie on my list, I would say that with, because there are a lot of movies when I thought, oh, I love that seeing it when it came out in 1994, because I was a kid learning, hey, this is something, I like that. I want to watch more of that. But now I go back and watch it and even realize, maybe not so much now. It's hard for me to say, okay, let me introduce the next generation to this.
Yeah.
But Titanic is definitely not one of those movies because they just re-released it.
I agree.
Massive re-release. I guess
it's a bad argument
ago.
on my part for the Ferris Bueller thing, but this is a massive, massive, massive movie that James Cameron made a lot of money off of, and he's finally delivering the 15-part Avatar series that we can watch.
Yeah.
There was a story about Titanic where the whole entire cast and crew got sick off of clam chowder because there was some sort of disgruntled employee with the catering company that got fired and decided to taint the clam chowder, which is not something that I thought I would do.
Clam chowder's already tainted by itself.
Yeah, really.
Taint the clam chowder. Put that on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
But and it got the whole cast and crew sick. And, I mean, that was just one of many things that were reported on that were leading industry experts to saying this is going to be the biggest bomb of all time, and it ended up becoming the biggest movie of all time.
Well, because I think people thought it was going to be the biggest bomb. Like, we already know what happens. It's like they're going to do, Abraham Lincoln's going to go see a play. We know it's going to happen. So I think that was a big thing. But I'm no disrespect. I'm not saying this is a stupid movie. I'm just saying like I feel like I missed the boat. I don't see myself watching Titanic tonight because of the fact that I haven't seen it.
In the chat, we'll take your suggestions. Is it too late for Rockstar to watch Titanic and get enjoyment out of it? Is it too late?
Let me also say this. Part of the reason I put it on my list, it is timeless because seeing it a year ago, my wife and I went on Valentine's Day to see it because they did a re-release. Now, you can look at it and say, yeah, there's like CGI characters, but this is 90s when that wasn't really a thing yet on the boat when it's from afar showing the whole boat. And it's like, you can tell its characters are a little pixelated, people walking around. You can pick it apart now if you really wanted to. The story works. It introduced Leonardo DiCaprio to most people. It wasn't his first movie, but it introduced him to everybody.
I would argue Growing Pains is what introduced Leonardo DiCaprio to most people. Maybe you could make the argument, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, but I don't think that would be
the one I feel he should have won an Oscar for was What's Eating Gilbert Grape, not The Revenant.
And that's probably the one, and The Revenant are like the only two I haven't seen that he's done.
Didn't Tommy Lee Jones win for The Fugitive that year? Wasn't that same year?
Well, it was Best Supporting Actor,
yeah.
right?
I don't think you can take it away from Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive give it to Leonardo DiCaprio.
That's true, but out of his whole body of work, I argue that Arnie from What's Eating Gilbert Grape he was amazing in that role, and not The Revenant. He just woke up in dreams.
You haven't seen Titanic. I'm just kidding.
But so not only did it introduce Leonardo DiCaprio, I think it changed James Cameron.
Kate Winslet introduced Kate Winslet.
It did introduce Kate Winslet. I just feel like if you say actors, a lot of people put Leo 1. I don't think anybody puts Kate Winslet 1. That's not a shot at her necessarily, but it showed the range for James Cameron because pretty much everything he had done to that point was sci-fi and action, and this is a total departure from that. Now he's gone back to it because Avatar is all he's doing now, but it kind of showed, hey, James Cameron's got a little more range. He should be not that people like Terminator, people like True Lies. There's other movies out there that he did, but this shows, look, he can do it all. Like a Spielberg can do, like these other directors can do.
You know what's very telling, and that is the fact that Leonardo DiCaprio.
Come on, now.
Sorry, Leonardo DiCaprio likes to work with the same directors over and over again, and him and James Cameron have never worked again. And I think it's probably because that was a pretty tense set. Leo did not want to do a test read for the part; he just wanted to be given the part. And
he wasn't there yet.
James Cameron was like, "You've got to read for the part. I'm sorry, but I'm not interested."
It doesn't matter how many people saw Growing Pains or how many people saw What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
It was coming off Romeo and Juliet, I'm guessing.
But the minute
actually almost watched that last night.
The minute that he read for it, Cameron knew he had found his Jack Dawson, and it's a lovely story now. But I'm sure production on that was the most miserable production to be a part of.
It's the clam chowder.
Is the tainted clam chowder. All right.
Also, last thing on Titanic, I think, and this may be a bad analogy, but I started thinking about it. I think Titanic did for, I guess you called it a disaster, movie with the crash and everything. But it did for that what a movie like I feel like Godzilla -1 this year did for monster movies, humanizing the people that are actually involved in the situation. If I think of like the perfect movie that it's not about the boat sinking, it's about the effect the boat sinking had on the characters that you're following. You watch an American Godzilla movie now, it's just about Godzilla blowing stuff up and fighting Kong and stuff like that. It's not about the people that are involved in it, but Godzilla -1, why it was such an incredible movie for all of us to go see, is it really humanized the people that Godzilla, and it humanized enemies of World War II as well. That's what made it so good. I'm not saying that has anything to do with Titanic back in 1914, 1912, whatever it was. But I feel like it did a really good job humanizing the story you're telling, and also, oh, by the way, the boat sinks, and it's about them as opposed to just, let's just make the boat sinking this crazy spectacle, as opposed to let's focus on the people trying to get on the life rafts and get out.
I remember the VHS I was most excited to ever purchase was that of Titanic because it came in the double VHS. It was like a block of Titanicness.
So does it just say like, please insert side 2 now? Like, oh wow,
it really does say please insert tape 2 or whatever at the end of the first one. You're like, okay, here we go, and things are going to pick up dramatically when you insert tape 2.
Where did they break?
I want to say they broke right after the ship hit the iceberg. Yeah. I believe that's where it was.
It is kind of a first and second half because as the ship hits the iceberg, not to spoil it, but I don't know if you're going to watch it.
So it did hit the iceberg.
As the ship hits, hey, they could have Tarantino'd it, I guess, and had something completely different happen. But as the ship hits the iceberg is also when the story of Jack and Rose kind of takes its turn into, we don't want this to be a relationship anymore. Jack's a peasant. He needs to go away. The whole thing is like he's a peasant. She's rich. Anything anyway.
Bill Hader got fired from his movie theater job because he spoiled the ending of Titanic for people who had not yet seen it. And
That it
That
crashes.
she wasn't big
or
enough for the door.
that Jack
He wasn't big enough for the door.
that Jack doesn't make it at the end.
that she says, "I'll never let you go," but actually lets him go.
Well, there's that too. But
I'm just saying.
all right, let's move on.
Never
to
mind.
number,
This isn't on the list anymore.
Let's move. Hey, Zach, real quick though,
Yes.
John, are you eating a lot of clam chowder these days on Way to Wellness? Is that part of the program?
I'm not eating clam chowder, but I mean, I guess if it makes me throw up, it would help. But no, look, Way to Wellness has been incredible for
the
me.
worst
I know,
intro
I tried
into
to
this
make,
as possible.
I tried to make some kind of funny joke. It always backfires. But what doesn't backfire is me going to Way to Wellness. It's been incredible for me so far. I'm close to 40 pounds. I weighed today. I'm 1 more pound away from hitting 40 pounds lost. And it's been incredible. Leslie and her whole team have done an incredible job with me. Go to aplanforme.com there. And I had a dream last night that I messed this read up and I said aplanforyou.com instead of a plan for me. Because it's not a plan for me. It's a plan for you. Because Jim always says that in his read, but it's a plan for you and it's a plan for me.
Well, now I'm more confused than ever after hearing all of that.
I had
What's
a dream
that website, John?
I had a dream we were doing the show. It's aplanforme.com. Go there. And yeah, look, Way to Wellness has been incredible for me. I've lost a lot of weight on it. It's been an incredible program. It's literally only been a little over, I guess today is 5 weeks on the program, and I'm almost at 40 pounds lost. They've done an incredible job getting my, eating habits changed. They've done an incredible job with, just getting my life habits changed. As an offensive lineman, I developed a lot of bad habits when it came to eating, getting stronger, stuff like that. And it kind of carried on into the rest of my life. So go to aplanforme.com. Leslie and her team there have done an outstanding job. My dad's been on it for about a year. He does great. Obviously, Jim Dunaway here has done it for a long time and has done great with it as well.
All right, let's move on to number 4 on Lunce's list. We already have a lot of your comments coming in of what should be on the list. And I have a feeling some of you have already struck gold based on what I'm seeing. I think at least one of these. I think I have one that is an absolute lock to be on this list at some point. Will it land in the number 4 spot is the question. But some people wanting Starship Troopers. I don't think that's going to
He's
end
in a
up being
different
on
color
there.
right now, too.
Tommy Boy, Black Sheep. I don't know if those are going to be
okay.
on there. Blade and Demolition Man. Face Off, Con Air. We've got a lot of your choices coming in. Let's see here. Number 4, The Lion King. Now, for those that are confused, this would be the animated version of The Lion King, which came out in, I believe,
1994. Sorry.
1994.
I spoiled it.
I was
I was ready to jump in.
It's okay.
Honest admission for me?
Oh, no. No.
Hey, can I go 0 for 5 on my list?
No, I had not seen it till this year with my son.
Okay. Well,
Did you like it? Did it hold up?
We watched the remake first. We watched the digital, the newer one first, and then we watched my wife had me watch the cartoon one, the Disney version. But so yeah, it was good. That was a
Did
good
you
film.
know the story before you saw it,
Yeah,
though, of what was
I
going to
did.
happen, all the different plot points?
Yes,
And
I
sort
don't
of-
know. It was a good film. I'm not one of these ones that like I'm not watching a stupid. No, like it's just I never saw it. I think Aladdin was the last Disney animated movie I saw until before Pixar and all that stuff.
Tyler, Lion King was before your time in terms of its original theatrical release, but does it hold up still to you as one of those childhood movies you have to watch?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Lion King 1, 2, and 1.5.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you ever had that DVD.
That's a deep dive.
It's
So
a deep dive, but y'all can leave those out. It's okay.
we had a teacher, it was my choir teacher in school, that was obsessed with playing the Lion King for us whenever there was a day where the VHS machine would come out. Except it was always Lion King 2. And you could tell there was
They didn't have the rights to one.
it may have been 1.5 now that I think of it. It actually may have been 1.5.
1.5's the one that does it from the other perspective, right?
Yeah.
And then 2's
Yeah, 1.5 focused on Timon.
come on and put, yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, why can't we go original Lion King here? It's such a better quality film, and it has the whole different. But anyway, shout out to Miss Hughes. Let's get into Lion King and why it's so important for you, John, because I'm more of a Beauty and the Beast guy.
So,
That's my guess.
now I will say I like the Beauty and the Beast live action better than I did, if you want to call it live action, Lion King. Just from like live action movies that Disney's done, I think Jungle Book's the best. Then I'd probably go Beauty and the Beast second. It's hard to compare Jungle Book and Lion King because it's basically straight up CGI, but
Beauty and the Beast, that remake, still the highest grossing movie ever to release in the month of March. And that is going up
fact.
against,
What a fact!
it's the truth.
And
It's
that's-
going up against some huge heavy hitters as well in the month of March. But
yeah,
That's a big
and
one.
the way movies are now with all what we talked about yesterday, I don't know what'll pass it in the month of March. I don't know that Dune. I mean,
yeah, I don't think it will.
because Dune's got to make it well over $1 billion to pass it, and I don't think it will.
pass
But But no, so The Lion King, a great voice cast. James Earl Jones, I know when it comes to voices.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Yeah, even though he didn't sing. But the iconic music, Elton John, Tim Rice, and doing that kind of led into Aida, which is one of my favorite Broadway plays of all time, and because they did the music in that as well. Everything about it's just kind of iconic. It's one of those things you can look back to, Circle of Life. How many times have you held your pet up in the air like you're, Rafiki holding up Simba? There's just a lot of, I've done it a lot.
That's one good way to get your eyes clawed out,
Yeah.
is holding up your cat like it's... I remember at the last UAB game I went to this year, there was a Simba cam, and I held up my daughter, and
Yeah.
she's also a giant. We have a giant family.
It's a little different than when she was a baby.
And I held her up, and everything was hurting, and she's screaming.
It's Jolly Green Giant and Sprout, little
And
Sprout.
I'm holding, and I'm doing this number, and she's shaking, and they never put us up
But
there.
say you never got on
We
the,
never got up there on the...
We were just at home. We were never actually at the game, but
I don't think
it didn't
we got
work.
up there.
I'll say this for The Lion King too. I was 7 when it came out, but it's like the first coming of age movie that I really remember watching as I was getting into that point of coming of age. Like, because it is very much a coming of age, going from a little kid, a little cub to,
I just can't wait to be
growing
king.
up. Yeah, and then of course, Hakuna Matata, when they see him kind of growing up on the log as they're going along. So that's one of the few things I remember of all the coming of age movies that, like, once you come of age, it's cool to go back and watch it or maybe see it through your kid's eyes or something. But like as a kid, that's one of the first ones I consciously remember watching. It's like, this is a coming of age movie as I'm starting to get to that point in life.
We just had to do a diorama of the East African savannah at home, and I put on The Lion King for inspiration this past weekend or whatever. And it was like, just how do we copy the images? Because one beautiful thing about that movie is the color palette constantly changes throughout.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's blue when it needs to be blue. It's pink when it needs to be pink. It's a brown. It's all different colors around all the time, and it works thematically. And it's a really beautiful movie for sure. I'm just more team Beauty and the Beast. But we have another Lion King movie coming out this year. Y'all know about this?
Yeah, the Mufasa movie.
Mufasa movie's coming out this year. So you didn't mention that already, did you?
No, but
Okay,
I mean,
I was making sure.
It's one of those that, once again, the live action one was, it's fine, but it was my biggest problem with it was basically shot for shot remake. And I feel like Beauty and the Beast took a few more liberties with the live action. Most of the other movies, I mean, Little Mermaid did that last year, but Lion King was almost shot for shot, and I didn't like the fact that they did that.
Yeah. Well, now they get to go off script, unless they're going to mimic Lion King 1.5, which is a movie I had to watch in choir over and over and over again. All right.
I'm so sorry.
Let's go. And by the way, if you're a choir teacher, sorry, this is very critical this many years later, but
How good is the music in The Lion King?
the music from the original Lion King, can anyone name a single song from the other two movies? I don't think so. But The Lion King, there's hit
Same
after
music?
hit after hit.
Because it's just the other way around. It's just coming from a different angle.
I don't know if we just
Hakuna
had
Matata again.
maybe the public school system just had a very low VHS budget, but come on. The
Yeah, I
original
don't
Lion
remember,
King-
but surely they sang Hakuna Matata again in that one because it's from their angle.
Yeah, I think all of the songs were the same, but it was just from Timon's perspective as Simba's going through his
You
story.
can just hear the screaming at the beginning of Circle of Life off in the distance because they're not actually there. They didn't get
Basically.
invited to see Simba get held up.
I didn't think that Tyler's commentary would trigger me as much as it has, but it certainly has. All right. Number 3 on Lunce's list. Once again, if you're just joining us, we are looking at the most impactful movies from the 1990s, according to John Lunsford for himself. So this is called Lunce's list for a reason. We're just here to disagree with the way in which he had his upbringing happen, I guess. All right. Number 3. Oh, this is the one that I thought was the lock. This is Saving Private Ryan, right?
Oh, I was Saving Silverman because I was going to say
Can't be
that.
Saving Silverman, I don't think. I think that wasn't that early 2000s?
Yeah, it was. Probably 2000, 2001.
That's not making any list of any kind that
Saving
you
Private
possibly give
Ryan.
me.
I knew this was going to be on your list. This is one of your favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
Is it the second best Spielberg movie in your opinion because you love E.T. so much?
Yes.
It's the second best
More than
Steven
AI.
Spielberg movie.
I actually love AI, and it's probably a top 5 Spielberg movie for me, but no, I would say Saving Private Ryan. And I'm one of the only people I know that thinks that, but yes, it's second behind E.T.
This is a huge movie of the 1990s, obviously starring Tom Hanks. You got Matt Damon in there. You got Vin Diesel in there, who you really
See,
like.
that's the thing about this cast. It's been a while since I watched it, but I was watching they do a thing, I don't remember who does it, but a lot of actors do it when they have a movie come out and they go through their whole career of like, hey, you remember when you did your first movie here? Hey, you remember when you had your first iconic role or whatever? So they did it with Paul Giamatti this year because of the holdovers. And when they get to Saving Private Ryan, it's like, I forgot Paul Giamatti was even in that. I randomly saw something about Bryan Cranston being in that. I forgot Bryan Cranston.
Ted Danson.
It's Ted Danson's in it. It has, this sounds weird, and maybe it's not the right way to phrase it, but it has a massively underrated cast because you think Tom Hanks, you think Matt Damon, you think the title people of the movie, but like you get to the Vin Diesels, you get to Giovanni Ribisi, you get to Barry Pepper, who may or may not appear and get on this list. Tom Sizemore, who just passed away, right?
Yep.
Like,
Recently.
there's a lot of people in this that you just don't think of when you think name the iconic. Like every movie that I've named here, you can name iconic people. Titanic, you can name Leonardo DiCaprio. I guess Lion King maybe not quite as much, but James Earl Jones, not him, but James Earl Jones is close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I talked about this earlier on in the show. My dad was not a movie person, right? And this is a show honoring his legacy. This is one of the few movies that he had to see opening weekend, and he went and saw it. And
I can't imagine watching.
He loved it, but he watched it alone, and he didn't know how he would handle it, being a war veteran himself. But a lot of people, this is what they considered to be their favorite war movie, and I'm pretty sure it's right up there for you, if not number one. It's close to the top. My personal favorite Spielberg movie, just because we're on the topic for 5 seconds, is Jaws, which is why we have this lovely piece of history up here. But we'll get into Jaws at another date. And
that's why I have an E.T. Well, you probably can't see it, but there's a little Funko Pop E.T. right there, which is why I have that, and not one of Matt Damon.
Did he do the Adventures of Tintin?
I don't think so. Did he?
I think
he
he attached
did.
to that. I think he may have produced it.
Wow, that's a very random. That's the fact that I know less about that than Lion King 1.5 is actually quite insane. There, Tyler, have you seen Saving Private Ryan?
The Adventures of Tintin in 2011. He did that in War Horse in the same year.
I saw War Horse. I actually saw
War Horse a lot better than that. Yeah,
I have seen Saving Private Ryan, and it is probably one of the best war movies I've ever seen. And that's coming from someone who isn't really a war movie guy. I like Saving Private Ryan, Apocalypse Now, and Fury, and that's about it.
Ooh, Fury's rough.
Apocalypse Now is one I need to see. See, I'm not a war guy either. That's what really turned me on to, hey, war movies are actually decent. Now, it came out when I was younger. I didn't go see it in theaters, but watching it after the fact, watching it a lot after that, 1917 is probably my number 2, just because I'm crazy about the way it was filmed. It was
gimmicky, but it really worked. I almost don't want to watch it a second time because it was so perfect the first time.
I'm with you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, real quick. I had a Saving Private Ryan question for you. I know what it is. I'm going to turn John into the villain here.
Okay.
You ready? I'm going to turn you into a villain.
Is this going to trash Vin Diesel?
No, it's going to trash you.
Oh.
You believe fully that Shakespeare in Love should have won the Academy Award.
I was going to bring that up.
As it did win the Academy Award for Best Picture that year, when the entire rest of the world believes Saving Private Ryan should have won the Academy Award for Best Picture. I believe this was in 1997, right? 98.
Yeah. Wait, you think it should Shakespeare in Love should have won?
You told me that.
I never said that.
You totally told me that.
Why would I want Shakespeare in Love to win over one of my favorite movies of all time?
You said Shakespeare in Love deserved.
My wife
to win
probably
that.
thought that.
No, you told me that.
No, I don't.
We're about
care.
to have all of these conversations.
I don't
recorded.
care anything about Shakespeare in Love. I've never seen Shakespeare in Love.
That's not true.
I've never seen Shakespeare in Love.
Okay, well, we're going to have to talk about this off the air because I'm pretty confident.
Must have been Dale that said that.
You've never seen Shakespeare in Love?
No.
Okay, must have been somebody.
I have no
else.
desire because it beat Saving Private Ryan. And
Who was it?
I don't know.
Anyway, you know who I bet
I'm
it
sure
was?
it's great. I don't know.
Bet it was Matt Murphy who I was having that conversation
Probably
with.
was. He has bad taste.
I don't know. All right, let's move on to number 2 on Lunce's list. Now I'm the bad guy for misremembering a conversation. Even though I'm going to have to do some detective work in my own head.
My wife
here
just
to
said she
figure
never
it
said that either, so I don't know where that came from. All right, number 2.
Number 2. So here we are in the 90s. What song around this time was like your go-to rock star?
Well, the 90s was my jam. 1995. Like I couldn't stop naming songs.
Give me maybe a 90s movie with a tremendous soundtrack.
Singles. Yeah.
What was the big song off of that?
It had Pearl Jam. It had Alice in Chains. It had
everything.
Soundgarden. It had Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
It had Mother Love Bone.
And it was a good movie.
It was Cameron Crowe movie. Yeah. Have you seen that one?
I have not. I'm not.
Matt Dillon, Bridget Fonda.
You can't be. I mean, you are the guy who hasn't seen Titanic.
You're the movie guy.
Yeah. Forrest Gump, number 2.
This is one.
This is Tom Hanks on a fiery run, is what this is.
So Tom Hanks in the 90s.
Tom Hanks in the 90s. I wouldn't be shocked if Toy Story's number 1 somehow.
It's one of those movies that I've seen probably 1.5 times, and I can quote nonstop. Which is crazy that I retained that for 94, which is also the same year as The Lion King.
Yep.
94 is a good year for Lunsford. The one thing I always remember about this was that John Travolta was up for the part, but he said no because he was going to make Battlefield Earth.
Whoops.
And they gave it to Tom Hanks.
Great
film.
Is a crazy thing.
Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, you have that, you know?
Here's one of the biggest reasons. It's one of my top 10 of all time, but here's one of the biggest reasons for me. It's because the way you phrased it was not just best, which these probably would be 5 best, but the 5 that had the biggest impression on me. And that's probably why Forrest Gump is ahead of Saving Private Ryan for me. Is for me, who I was 7 at the time, this is the first time on the big screen with a massive movie that a lot of people saw, won a bunch of awards, that Alabama was represented on the screen.
There we go.
That not only the state of Alabama, but the University of Alabama, which at that point I had already been going to games for 3 or 4 years with my parents, grew up an Alabama fan. My dad went to Alabama. I went to Alabama. And so it was the first time that I saw, and I know there were parts of Alabama, obviously, that are fictionalized, but like that's the first time I saw our state, both negative and positive, represented on the big screen in a movie with, and of course, introducing me to plenty of actors like Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Sally Field, a lot of people that as a young kid, I didn't know necessarily who a lot of these people were, that then I would go on to watch over and over again my entire life.
My question is, did you walk out, I think I did, walk out and ask your dad if, does he remember that Forrest Gump played for Alabama? Like, did you take a lot with a modicum of truth?
I don't think I asked him that.
That guy had an interesting life.
I don't think I asked him that, but I'm sure I did ask questions about the overall, once again, both positive and negative things that it brought about Alabama. But of all the scenes in Alabama, I probably did ask him, hey, did this happen? Did this happen? Event-wise, not like, hey, was Forrest Gump the greatest, return man on kickoffs ever for Alabama?
Forrest Gump, that was Robert Zemeckis, is that correct? Behind Forrest Gump, and then they reunited for Castaway a few years later. And I've always...
Haley Joel Osment, too, introduced me to him before then Sixth Sense came out a few years later.
Oh, yeah.
What are you watching? Bert and Ernie.
Sally Field.
Yeah.
Another really good cast there. I think Forrest Gump is going to be popular with a lot of people in the chat for sure, as it makes number 2 on Lunce's list. I want to go ahead and get us to number 1, the movie that you would say has had the biggest impact on you from the 1990s. While John is writing that out, we would love to support those that have given back to our country when buying or selling a home. Remember our friend Jim Wilson with Location Real Estate. Jim is all about honesty and transparency with his clients. He's still active with the U.S. military and is dedicated to everything that he does. Jim is only happy when you are happy. Each of Jim Wilson's clients has his full attention and devotion to get what they need and want, not only during the home buying or selling experience, but every day after. He's an advocate for you. Whether you're buying or selling, contact Realtor Jim Wilson with Location Real Estate. That's location with a K at 205-329-4758. That's 329-4758, or visit jimwilson.locationre.com. All right, number 1, The Green Mile, another Tom Hanks movie.
Another Barry Pepper movie, too. Yep. Another Spielberg
That's part of the reason I brought him up. Saving Private Ryan, it's like, and Barry Pepper, who may make an appearance again.
Was Toy Story close to being on this list? Because
Toy Story is part of the 23, I will say that.
Talk about Tom Hanks dominating Lunce's list. I have a feeling you like Tom Hanks, John.
Tom Hanks in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, lately he's fallen off a little bit. I mean, look, he's still a good actor. It's just... like
he plays Tom Hanks in movies now.
He does. I mean,
Tom
the movies
Hanks
he
plays
chooses.
this. Tom Hanks plays this. You know, it's like
the movies he chooses aren't necessarily like, oh, I got to run out and see that. But no, Tom Hanks in the 90s was the thing. And look, I don't like horror movies.
Yeah.
As my wife just texted Stephen King, because I'm not going to rush out and see anything Stephen King, is behind the story of. But he does get away from horror every now and then. And this obviously has a, mystical fantasy kind of element to it, but not a horror movie per se, depending on how you want to define horror. And this is one that I didn't rush out to see, but my dad, I didn't see it in theaters. The minute it hit shelves with VHS, only on one VHS, then he went and picked it up at Blockbuster. We watched it, and I was sold after that. And that did get me into learning about Stephen King and respecting what Stephen King has done, even though I don't care when whatever horror movie comes out that he's attached, it's off his books. But it also introduced me to Michael Clark Duncan as well, who was incredible. I think he lost to Michael Caine that year, maybe.
99,
The Oscar, yeah.
Which, by the way, Michael Caine was not at the Oscars, was he? Because he was
I
shooting.
honestly don't remember.
What year was this again?
So it would have been in 2000, but it was 1999 was the year the movie came out.
That was another Oscars. Where he was
I
filming
think it was
Jaws
Michael
the
Caine,
Revenge.
but anyway. But Michael Clark Duncan was incredible. That he's one of those I really liked. Movie choices weren't the best. I'm not gonna, Marky Mark's Planet of the Apes, or he played
Whole 9 Yards.
He Whole 9 Yards, which is right, he did right after the Green Mile, or like he played Kingpin in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movies. But got a little better on Talladega Nights. I liked. My guilty pleasure movie that's everybody considers awful is The Island, which is a Michael Bay movie with Ewan McGregor and
Definitely
Scarlett
a guilty
Johansson.
pleasure movie.
And he's in that. I love that movie. I'm probably the only person on the planet that says that. But he's one, like, that acting performance is up there. It's one of the best I've ever seen from just that movie, what Michael Clark Duncan did. I mean, everybody was good. And that Sam Rockwell is kind of an introduction to him for me, because he had done stuff, but not like super big that I would have seen as a kid. Everything about this movie is just absolute perfection. And it's one of the first movies I can remember, like, you know the truth, but something bad ends up happening at the end anyway. I guess I'm kind of spoiling it, but like, seeing the visions and seeing like, hey, this is actually a good guy and he's wrongly accused and all that. Like, that's just something I hadn't really seen or read or anything, because I was 12 when it came out. That it was just kind of fascinating to see that whole angle play out in the movie.
So there we have it, Lunce's list. Number 1, The Green Mile. Number 2, Forrest Gump. Number 3, Saving Private Ryan. Number 4, The Lion King. Number 5, Titanic. Would any of these make your personal top 5, Rocky?
I would say Saving Private Ryan would be the only one that would make mine. I think.
Titanic would definitely make mine. I'm not sure any of the others would. I loved Independence Day. It was a huge movie that
It's in the 23.
just shaped me very much in 1996.
Should I just name the others so we can just say?
Throw them out there, so that
Okay,
way
I'm going
at
in
least the
depth.
chat will be satisfied, because they're throwing out a lot of different 90s movies.
So the one that just missed the list that I fought back and forth with to put on the list with Titanic, believe it or not, is Varsity Blues from 1999.
You love that movie.
I
John
love Varsity
Moxon.
Blues. It's Ali Larter's birthday today, which after I wrote this list, they brought up Ali Larter on 4 Downs today, even though they only did 3 of them.
Yep.
Toy Story was next. It was, I guess, number 7. The Matrix, 1999.
I fell asleep in The Matrix. I did.
But just because it was so revolutionary when it came out. Office Space would not have been up there until probably 7 or 8 years ago, because I realized everything that happens in Office Space is 100% true.
Office Space holds up so well.
It does.
Like, it
It
was...
Samir Naeem Najad. It's not that hard. Ain Najad.
Michael Bolton probably still getting royalties somehow off of that. It's
Yes.
an amazing movie.
It is incredibly true too. Everything about it. And then Jurassic Park rounded up kind of my next 5 of movies. The other ones that were close: The Iron Giant, love that one. Billy Madison, Big Lebowski, Bicentennial Man. Once again, I'm probably the only person on the planet that loved that movie, but that's my favorite Robin Williams movie. Independence Day, Good Will Hunting, Beauty and the Beast, Rudy, The Truman Show, Goodfellas, Silence of the Lambs, Home Alone, and the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, there you go.
there you
I
go.
was waiting for that. No Shawshank.
I have never seen Shawshank. It's one of those you just mentioned with Titanic.
Yep.
The moment kind of passed for it, and I know everybody goes back and it's like, but it's like one of the great, like with Titanic, it's one of the greatest all time. You got to watch it. It's like now it's like that's kind of one of those I want to keep in my back pocket of like I haven't seen it and I don't really care to go
It's
see it.
so overhyped. There's no way it's going to live up to the hype for you. There's
Correct, which is what happened with The
0%
Godfather
chance.
with me, because I watched it for the first time a few years ago.
Same with me.
And it's like you just can't match the hype that this movie has. So I'm going to say it's not as good as everybody is just losing their mind over.
All right. So there we have Lunce's list. Appreciate everybody contributing there in the chat. A lot of different choices being thrown out there of maybe what should made the list, including from your wife, who believes Blair Witch Project is.
When I
One of
told
the
her
most
this was the list, that's literally the first thing she
You want
said.
to talk about influential marketing campaigns of the 90s?
And I remember all that.
Blair Witch Project's number 1.
Was that
Number
the
one.
launch of the found footage films? Because that's one thing. That's one genre I'm ready to stop. Was the found footage? Because it's just too.
I love
shaky for me.
Cloverfield, but it's not something I want to see all the time. It's good every now and then.